Hey guys, tonight we're staying up way past bedtime, venturing into a part of Denton High that most students don't even know exists, the old journalism wing, tucked away on the fourth floor where the air conditioning died sometime around 1998. It's midnight, maybe a little later, and the only sounds are the distant, rhythmic grinding of the ancient HVAC system and the relentless, high-pitched thrum of the emergency lights above the fire exits. I brought my smallest lantern, just enough light to guide us through the dust and old filing cabinets, but not enough to chase the shadows away. This space is supposed to be condemned, full of archived papers and forgotten history. But tonight, I have a feeling we might find something that doesn't belong to the past at all. My heart is already beating a weird, slow rhythm against my ribs, and I can taste the cold, metallic tang of the air. It always smells like ozone and old staples up here. Before we get into the truly unsettling discovery, I need to remind you, I take a lot of risks to bring you these stories from the deserted places, the quiet hours, the corners of the world that only speak when everyone else is asleep. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tonight's story requires your full attention. We need to be quiet, listen closely, and trust only what we see. Now, dim the lights, maybe crack open a window for that midnight breeze, and let's walk the halls together. I'm standing in what used to be the main office for the student newspaper, the Denton Chronicle. The room is rectangular, lined with dark wood veneered desks piled with the ghosts of assignments past. I sweep my light across a stack of yellowed papers near the window. It's so quiet here that when I shift my weight, the wooden floor groans a deep, ancient sigh beneath my sneakers. The dust on the desks is thick enough to sketch patterns in. I run my finger along a keyboard, and the gray grime rolls up like lint. This wing is a perfect architectural anchor for the school's history. Built in 1956, it was the first expansion, designed back when schools prioritized massive storage over practical flow. You can see the original blueprints taped crudely to the far wall, showing the bizarre labyrinthine structure of the ventilation shafts and the non-functional dumbwaiter system that runs down to the ground floor maintenance bay. I move towards a particularly large filing cabinet, rusted shut and leaning slightly. I brought a pry bar, just in case. The metal groans, a sound that echoes sharp and brittle against the surrounding silence, like snapping bone. Inside, it's mostly just moldering copies of the 1995 Student Handbook and Old Journalism Awards, little plastic plaques that celebrate headlines nobody remembers. I sift through the papers, brushing away the crumbling edges of decades-old newsprint. The smell is intoxicatingly musty, the perfume of forgotten potential. And then I see it. It's tucked beneath a binder full of handwritten notes about a bake sale that happened 20 years ago. It's plastic, pristine, and perfectly glossy. It's a student ID card. I pick it up, turning it under the beam of my lantern. The plastic feels impossibly smooth, almost warm, which is strange because everything else up here is stone cold. The photograph is sharp, high resolution, showing a boy, maybe 15, serious eyes, dark hair that falls slightly over his forehead. He's wearing a uniform shirt I don't recognize. The Denton High logo is the same, yes, but the color palette is different. A deep maroon and silver, not the faded blue and gold we use now. I look at the text below the photo. Denton High School student identification. Name, Thorne Liam K. ID, 4038 LKT. Grade, 10. Expiration, June 2038. I stand there, the dust motes dancing in the beam of my light, holding a piece of plastic that shouldn't exist. We're in 2024. The expiration date on this ID is 14 years into the future. I check the ID again, rubbing my thumb across the printed year. It's not smudged, it's not faded, and it's clearly 2038. This is the first touch of the genuinely unnerving. A realistic object, perfectly manufactured, that violates the timeline I know. It's a key without a lock, a memory that hasn't happened yet. I put the ID down briefly on the desk and step back, taking a breath that catches in the dry, dusty air. This cannot be a prank. Who spends the money and effort to print a perfect, high-quality future ID card and hides it under 1,995 journalism archives in a condemned wing of a school? The thought is ridiculous. A low, unsettling buzz starts, louder than the usual high-tension wires above the hall. It's coming directly from the desk where the card rests. I look up at the ancient fluorescent bulb above me. It's flickering, slow and agonizing, casting the room in strobing gray and black. But the lights in the rest of the hall are stable. It's just this one bulb, reacting directly to the ID. This is where the supernatural element begins to seep in. The energy signature of the future ID card is causing localized electrical interference. I cautiously pick the card up again. The buzzing stops instantly. The bulb stabilizes, bathing the room in sickly, consistent yellow-white light. I hold the card tight. It's colder now, surprisingly heavy. I walk over to the window, looking out over the mostly dark campus parking lot. The only light comes from the distant football field lamps. The silence outside is absolute, pressing against the glass. I stare at the image of Liam K. Thorne, class of 2038. His eyes, in the photo, look troubled, almost accusatory. The thought hits me with a force that makes me gasp slightly. If this ID is real, then the history of this school, and maybe the history of this town, is already written up to 2038. And I'm holding the proof of a life that is currently, perhaps, a baby, or maybe not even conceived yet. I remember the local campus rumors, the theory that Denton High sits on a deep temporal fault line, built over old industrial railway tracks that were rumored to occasionally shift objects forward or backward in time. Usually just small things. A misplaced history textbook appearing a decade early, or a vintage watch found in the 1950s that definitely ran on quartz. We always dismissed those as substitute teacher folklore, something to scare the freshmen with. Now, holding this plastic rectangle, the folklore feels frighteningly factual. I trace the edges of the card. The smooth plastic is starting to feel less like plastic and more like cooled glass. I think some lessons were never meant to be taught. I need to find out who Liam K. Thorne is, or rather, who he will be. I need the archives, the old enrollment records, the places where the school keeps its secrets buried deep. But I can't leave this card here. I slip it into my pocket. It feels like a slab of cold river stone against my thigh. As I turn off the lantern, the room plunges into near total darkness, broken only by the weak gray glow from the hallway safety lights. I hear the distant, repetitive clank-thunk of the janitor's elevator operating far below, pulling something heavy upwards, or perhaps downwards, into the deep core of the building. I try to convince myself it's just Mr. Hemmings moving supply carts, but Mr. Hemmings left at 10:30 sharp tonight. The elevator is moving autonomously, and it's moving towards my floor. I quietly close the rusted filing cabinet door and start moving toward the stairwell, fast but silent. The rhythmic clank-thunk of the ascending elevator sounds horribly close now, vibrating through the metal structure of the stairwell railing as I descend rapidly from the fourth floor. I don't know why I'm running from an empty elevator, but the presence of that card in my pocket is making the logical corners of my mind crumble. It feels like a beacon, drawing attention from the impossible corners of the building. I reach the third floor, the main academic corridor. It's a stretch of endless beige lockers under a long row of fluorescent lighting that refuses to die, even in the middle of the night. The sound of my own quick breathing is loud and hollow in the expansive quiet. My destination is the administration wing on the first floor, where the main computer terminals and the historical records vault are kept. I need access to the student database. If this card is a realistic or factual anchor, meaning if it represents a planned future, there might be some placeholder data, some administrative error, some overlooked detail that confirms the existence of Liam K. Thorne. As I pass the mathematics classrooms, the humidity seems to drop suddenly. A blast of dry, cold air hits me, carrying a faint, peculiar scent, a mix of old ozone and the overly sweet, chemical smell of new plastic binders. It's the scent of the future, somehow, already bleeding into the present air. I check the time on my phone, 12:47 a.m. The ID feels heavy in my pocket, almost pulling my belt slightly to the left. I pull it out again under the flickering light near the A/V lab. I notice a tiny detail I missed before, etched faintly into the bottom left corner of the card, almost invisible against the silver trim. 3 interlocking circles. I recognize the symbol. It's the old Denton High Historical Society emblem, only used on documents before 1970. Why would a 2038 ID card feature a 1960s relic? I reach the first floor. The main office is dark, sealed by heavy oak doors. I bypass the office and head to the smaller, less used side office where the attendance records and archived historical documents are kept. The data annex. I have a spare key, kept quiet and unofficial, that opens the deadbolt on the annex door. The annex is a cramped space, smelling strongly of wood polish and old paper. Inside, the lights are weak, dusty overhead panels that cast long, confusing shadows. I power up the oldest computer in the room, a clunky machine used only for accessing legacy databases. While it boots up, the monitor displaying a sickly yellow glow, I look around for tangible proof. I locate the massive, gray binders containing digitized attendance logs. I scroll through years, 2025, 2029, 2033. Nothing. I shouldn't expect anything, right? But the card is so convincing. Then, I find the administrative archive logs for Project Phoenix. This is my factual anchor. Everyone knows Denton High is old, but few know about the massive reconstruction and modernization projects slated for the late 2030s. These are highly restricted internal maintenance schedules and building plans, dated 2021, detailing everything from boiler replacement to new wing additions. I open the digital file for scheduled infrastructure upgrades, Q4 2037. Item 3.1, renovation of central student lockers, new wing section alpha. Item 3.2, implementation of biometric student ID access system, full campus rollout. Item 3.3, installation of advanced server cluster and data annex, primary host, server 4038. I stop scrolling. Server 4038. I pull out the ID card again. Liam K. Thorne, ID, 4038 LKT. The coincidence is too precise to ignore. The student's ID number is directly linked to a specific piece of future infrastructure, a server that doesn't exist yet, planned for installation a decade and a half from now. The school itself seems to be factoring this student or this student's data structure into its future reality. I try a cross-reference search in the current live student database using the ID number 4038. 0 results. As expected. But then I try searching the legacy database, the one meant only for tracking alumni and retired staff. I search the phrase, Thorne Liam K. The system chugs, taking an agonizing 30 seconds to process. The screen flashes. Result found 1. Name, Thorne L. Status, placeholder, data integration test 2037. Notes, enrollment pending. Server 4038 allocation confirmed. Parental waiver, future integration protocol, administrator override 1971. The parental waiver note sends a shudder through me. 1971. That's even older than the current staff. It suggests that a protocol existed, hidden deep in the school's initial data setup, specifically for future integration, a concept I can't logically parse. What administrator in 1971 was preparing a waiver for a student to enroll in 2037? I lean back, the chair squeaking loudly against the dusty linoleum floor. The supernatural element is no longer just a flickering light. It's a systematic distortion embedded in the very foundations of the school's data structure. The school is not merely holding an object from the future. It is actively planning for that future, acknowledging the existence of Liam K. Thorne in its deepest operational code. I look at the ID card, resting beside the keyboard. It starts vibrating, subtly, almost imperceptibly, against the wooden desktop. I don't feel the vibration in the table itself, only the card. It's a localized, internal shudder. And then I hear it, faint but distinct, echoing from the ventilation shafts above the annex ceiling. It sounds like music, not a song, but an instrumental loop, synthesized and melancholic, reminiscent of 1980s new wave, but cleaner, higher fidelity. It's the kind of sound you might hear waiting on hold for customer service, only imbued with a profound sadness. It's definitely coming from the intercom speakers, but the PA system has been dead since Tuesday, according to maintenance. I think some lessons were never meant to be taught. This music is unsettling because it doesn't belong to my time. It's too polished, too artificial for the dusty, analog environment of Denton High. It feels like ambient background noise from the timeline the card represents. The music swells slightly, and now I can hear something else layered beneath the synth tones. The quick, rhythmic squeak of rubber shoes on polished tile. Someone is running, somewhere far off in the empty corridors of the future, perhaps running to or from the location broadcasting this strange, desolate soundtrack. I clutch the card tightly. The coldness intensifies, freezing the tips of my fingers. I need to get out of this annex. I turn off the computer, plunging the room into shadows again. The image of Liam K. Thorne burned into my mind. I hear the music fade instantly as the computer power dies, confirming the temporal bleed is directly linked to active systems, or perhaps linked to the card itself, which I now realize I have pressed against the monitor screen briefly. I must find where this card wants me to go. I am back in the main hallway on the second floor, the geography of the school feeling suddenly hostile and unfamiliar despite decades of familiarity. The fluorescent lights overhead are buzzing again, a dense, constant static that feels like pressure building inside my skull. I keep walking, moving away from the administration wing, seeking the older, rarely disturbed sections of the school, the forgotten storage areas beneath the gymnasium. If the ID is an anchor to a future planned in the 1970s, the physical node must be somewhere deep within the original 1956 structure. The card is still in my hand. I find myself compulsively checking the photo of Liam. The quiet desperation in his eyes seems to grow with every passing minute. It's as if the plastic is absorbing my own dread and reflecting it back onto the boy's face. I pass the gymnasium doors. They are usually chained shut after hours, but tonight they stand slightly ajar, maybe an inch, just enough to catch the movement of air. I push the heavy metal door open. The gym is a massive, hollow cavern, dominated by the single, weak emergency light over the exit bleachers. The air smells heavily of oiled wood and ancient sweat. I descend the narrow, concrete staircase leading down to the storage rooms and equipment cages beneath the bleachers. This area serves as my next factual anchor. It's notorious for its confusing, often illogical layout, a byproduct of mid-century fire codes forcing unnecessary, winding auxiliary corridors. I remember the detailed blueprints I saw in the journalism lab, specifically the sublevel map that showed a long-disused utility access tunnel extending underneath the main road, officially marked abandoned 1980. Down here, the concrete floor is cold, damp, and pitted. The silence is different. It's thick, smothering the distant sounds of the school above. I activate my lantern. The light catches on something strange hanging from the ceiling near a row of basketball hoops, a section of thick, black cabling, sliced cleanly and dangling. I stop dead, looking at the ID card. The card feels colder than ever, radiating a chill that makes the hairs on my arms stand up. I hear a sound right behind the chain-link storage cage, the unmistakable, sharp chalk dragging across a blackboard. Screech. I whip around. The storage cage is empty, filled only with dusty volleyball nets and broken scoreboards. There are no chalkboards back here. Chalkboards are only in the classrooms, 2 floors up. The sound was distinct, painfully physical, yet sourced from nowhere. This is the supernatural element intensifying. The timelines are overlapping in sound. The sound of chalk dragging suggests a classroom moment, a lesson being written or erased, but it's displaced to a subterranean utility corridor in the dead of night. I walk towards the end of the corridor, where the utility tunnel entrance is located. It's sealed by a heavy, gray steel door marked with a peeling, faded label, DHS Maintenance, Access Restricted, 1980. I try the handle. Locked, naturally, but I pull the ID card from my pocket and hesitantly hold it up to the surface of the door. The card is not magnetic strip access, it's proximity. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, the steel plate around the door handle, which I thought was just rust, glows with a very faint blue light. It's not an electrical arc, but a deep, contained luminescence. A soft, high-pitched tone emits from the door, a chime, brief and digital. The deadbolt slides back with a mechanical thump. The ID card has unlocked the sealed entrance to the school's forgotten infrastructure. The future key opens the oldest lock. I push the heavy door inward. The air that rushes out is stagnant, thick with the smell of wet concrete and iron. It is pitch black inside. I step into the utility tunnel, shining my light ahead. The tunnel is narrow, running maybe 100 feet before terminating at what looks like a heavy brick wall. As I move deeper, I realize the walls are lined not with pipes, but with old, disused lockers built directly into the concrete framework. They are the oldest style, dark green, heavily dented. They look like the lockers you see in black and white photos of the school's opening day. I scan the locker numbers with my light. 101, 102, 103. They stop at 200. I walk the length of the tunnel, reaching the brick wall at the end. Nothing. The door must have only granted temporary access. I turned to leave, feeling the weight of failure pressed down on me. I'm about to retreat when I notice something strange on the brick wall. It's not graffiti. It's an inscription, carved with difficulty into the aged brick. 4038. Don't wait. Don't go back. I pull the ID out immediately. 4038, his ID number. I whirl back, running my hand over the dark green lockers I just passed. I stop at locker 178. I hold the future ID against the rough, painted metal. Nothing. But wait. What if the numbering convention is different in 2038? What if the future students are organized not by floor, but by building section? I check the locker's original plaque. It has 2 holes where a second number plate was once affixed. I place the ID card flat against the space where the second plate would have been. Chime. The same soft, digital tone as the door. I watch in disbelief as the faded green paint on locker 178 begins to shimmer. It doesn't unlock. It changes. The paint ripples like water, softening, flowing, and then settling into the dark maroon and silver color scheme I saw on Liam's uniform. A new plate materializes over the old bolt holes, stainless steel, engraved. Locker 4038, Thorne, L. I try the handle. It turns smoothly. Inside, the locker is entirely sterile, clean, and perfectly organized, utterly unlike the dusty, dank tunnel surrounding it. It contains 3 items: a single, clean spiral notebook, a heavy, pristine textbook titled Quantum Mechanics and Chronal Field Theory, 2037 edition, and a maroon backpack with the silver Denton High logo. I open the notebook. The pages are filled with tight, frantic handwriting, calculations mixed with frantic, reflective thoughts. The first legible line. They think the school is safe. They think the timelines are separate. I think some lessons were never meant to be taught. A moment of pure, focused panic overtakes me. The sheer reality of this. The future student is communicating, confirming the existential threat I feel radiating from the building. He was here, or will be here, using this physical anchor point to leave a message. I pull out the textbook. I open it to the flyleaf. In that same panicked scrawl, written over the printed title, it says, "It's not chronal theory, it's chronal collapse. The ID is the anchor. You must cut the anchor before they find you." Suddenly, the lights in the main tunnel flicker violently. The buzzing intensifies into a deafening roar. The steel door slams shut behind me with the violence of a gunshot. I'm trapped in the dark utility corridor with the spectral presence of Liam K. Thorne. The sudden, brutal slam of the steel door echoes down the tunnel, leaving a profound, suffocating silence in its wake. The buzzing in my ears continues, a phantom pressure that seems to originate from the ID card still clutched in my hand. I am plunged into absolute darkness until I quickly reactivating my lantern. The beam struggles to pierce the oppressive gloom. I turn and run toward the door. I slam my shoulder against the steel, testing the lock, but it's completely sealed. It feels heavier now, denser, as if the steel has grown thicker. The blue light is gone. The mechanism is dormant. I try swiping the card again, but the door rejects it. It's a one-way path, the card acting as an initial key, but not a universal one. I am trapped with the future student's belongings, deep beneath the gymnasium, surrounded by ancient, shifting architecture. I step back towards locker 4038. I open the textbook again, shining the light onto the scrawled warning. You must cut the anchor before they find you. Who are they? And why does the school keep generating these objects if it wants the timelines separate? I look around the utility tunnel again, trying to regain my sense of direction. I'm relying on the factual anchor of the school's historical layout. The utility corridor should connect back to the basement boiler room, a larger open area with another exit stairwell. I push past the sealed door, searching the walls, noticing a small, almost hidden metal grate near the floor. It's marked V7, which I remember from the blueprint meant ventilation shaft 7, connects to primary heat exchanger. I pry the grate open easily. The tunnel behind it is narrow, dusty, and requires me to crawl. The air flow is immediate, carrying the strong, sulfurous scent of hot, dry metal and burning dust, the distinct aroma of the school's boiler room, thankfully functional and present. I begin the slow, desperate crawl. The metal scrapes against my clothes, and the dust is choking. As I move, the atmosphere begins to change subtly. The sound of my own breathing, loud and ragged, is suddenly overlaid with softer, distant voices. They are indistinct, echoing whispers, like a crowded hall filtered through thick concrete. Too many conversations happening at once. This is the supernatural element intensifying, the sound of a full school day, bleeding into the dead of night. I keep crawling, the tunnel feeling like it stretches into infinity. I reach the end of the shaft and drop down into a large, cold room. The boiler room. This is the heart of the school's old infrastructure, a massive, echoing space dominated by two immense iron boilers. The temperature is unbearable, radiating stifling heat that makes the air shimmer. I feel sweat instantly prickling my skin. I walk past the towering metal, seeking the exit stairwell. I find it, a set of heavy, concrete stairs leading up towards the ground floor, marked only with the word exit. I start climbing, relieved to be moving upwards, back toward the known present. As I ascend, the whispers get louder, morphing from indistinct crowd noise into individual, clear statements, all delivered in the unnerving, melancholy synthesized tone I heard in the data annex. Liam K. Thorne, report to hallway 400. Detention assigned. The assembly will begin in 10 minutes. Topic: temporal stability and student compliance. The voices sound like the PA system, except they are speaking directly to me, confirming the location and time. Hallway 400, a reference to his ID number. I reach the top of the stairs, pushing through the heavy fire door. I step into what I believe is the main first-floor corridor near the cafeteria. But it's wrong. The lockers are the wrong color. They are the deep maroon and silver, sleek and metallic, the colors of Liam's 2038 uniform. The floor is not the familiar worn linoleum, but polished, gray tile that reflects the harsh overhead light perfectly. I look down at my feet. The floor is slick, glistening with moisture, like rain-slick entry tiles, even though I'm clearly inside. I have exited the basement into the future. This is the looping corridor nightmare, but spatialized into time itself. I rush down the corridor, panicked, looking for familiar landmarks. I see a water fountain, but it's a sleek, touchscreen dispenser, not the chipped ceramic unit I know. The air smells clean, almost chemically sterile, lacking the old paper dust and mustiness of 2024 Denton High. I desperately try a classroom door handle. It's locked. On the door, the standard white nameplate is replaced by a digital display. Applied Chronal Physics, Dr. V. Hollis. I look into the glass of the classroom door, expecting to see my own reflection. The present me, sweaty and dusty, holding a future ID card. The reflection staring back is horrific. It is me, but older. His face is gaunt, stressed, eyes wide with genuine terror. He is wearing the maroon and silver uniform, and his reflection is holding not the ID card, but the heavy quantum mechanics textbook. His mouth is moving, soundlessly screaming, "Don't let them see you." I immediately jump back, stumbling against the lockers. The reflection vanishes, replaced instantly by my own current image, staring back wide-eyed in the sterile, future hallway. The psychological collapse is beginning. My present self has encountered my future, terrified counterpart. A future where I am a student at the 2038 Denton High, perhaps trapped alongside Liam K. Thorne. I check my pockets frantically. The ID is gone. I must have dropped it when I stumbled. I scan the slick, gray floor. There, resting near the lockers, is the pristine ID card, its surface reflecting the future hallway. I pick it up, hating the cold, invasive feel of it. This card didn't just access a future. It pulled me into a localized time bubble within the school structure. I think some lessons were never meant to be taught. I need to find the boundary, the tear between 2024 and 2038. I start running in the only direction available, down the unfamiliar hallway, the rhythmic squeak of my shoes now perfectly synchronized with the squeaking I heard earlier in the night. I am running in the future, being watched by the ghost of my own terror. Up ahead, the corridor terminates not in a wall, but in a strange, shimmering curtain of static electricity, vibrating like thick, hot air. That must be the exit back to my own time. I sprint towards the shimmering curtain of static, the maroon and silver lockers blurring on either side. The slick floor almost sends me sprawling, and the whole atmosphere screams wrong. I feel a desperate need to cleanse the air from my lungs, to breathe the familiar dust of 2024 again. As I near the shimmering boundary, the synthesized music from the PA system surges, louder than ever. It sounds like a digital alarm clock going off, endless, grating, accompanied by the muffled, distant slams of thousands of lockers opening and closing in rapid succession. The school is coming to life around me, or rather, the future school is fully manifesting. I hear heavy, rapid footsteps approaching from a side corridor ahead of me, accompanied by frantic, ragged breathing. "Thorne, stop!" A voice shouts, digitally enhanced, echoing unervingly down the sterile hallway. It's an adult voice, sharp and authoritarian. I realize I am standing exactly where Liam K. Thorne was running, moments before his capture, or perhaps his enrollment. I am caught in his escape route. I dive toward the nearest door just as a figure rounds the corner. It's a man in a dark, gray suit, moving with alarming speed, a tablet clutched in his hand. He doesn't look like a teacher. He looks like security, or perhaps an administrator tasked with temporal compliance. I shove myself into the room, pulling the door shut just as the man's hand swipes where my head had been. I lean against the door, breathless, hearing the man outside stop, his heavy, specialized shoes squeaking on the slick tile floor. ID 4038 breach detected in Sector Alpha. The man's voice, cold and flat, broadcasts into a radio. Student attempted egress via the primary temporal shear. Containment requested. I look around the room. It's a specialized storage unit, my next factual anchor. Along the walls are racks of uniform boxes and administrative supplies. But one area is protected by clear, heavy plastic sheeting, the library archives vault. Denton High is famous for its extensive, if poorly cataloged, collection of regional historical texts. I move towards the vault area. Inside, protected from the future's sterile atmosphere, are rows and rows of dusty, leather-bound books. I recognize the smell immediately. Old paper, leather, and dry glue. It's the smell of my time. I look down at the ID card. I must cut the anchor. The card is the point of entry and the point of control. But I need to know what I am cutting myself free from. I frantically scan the historical texts, looking for anything related to the school's future, or maybe the name Thorne. Most of the books are local histories, dating back to the 19th century. I pull one down at random, a large, heavy tome titled Denton County Architectural Records, Volume 3. I flip through the brittle pages. Chapter 4, Public Works and Education. I find the section on Denton High School. It lists the construction dates, 1956, and expansions. I scan the notes, looking for the crucial, final detail. In the margin, written in what looks like the same faint, panicked script from Liam's notebook, is a single annotation next to the entry for the 1971 Data Integration Protocol. They didn't build the school here for the town. They built the town here for the school. The energy source is the 35 collapse. I pull another book, this one newer, dated 2021, Local Legends and Schoolyard Ghosts. I flip to the chapter on Denton High. The local campus rumor, the temporal fault line, is documented here. But the book offers a chilling addition. The myth states that every 30 years, the school consumes an anchor point from the future to stabilize its past. The previous collapse was rumored to be in 1971, which aligns with the administrator override on the data annex computer. The book mentions that the structure of the school, especially the central tower and gymnasium supports, generates and contains a localized temporal field, making the building itself an independent, self-healing time machine. The 35 collapse. The book found in Liam's locker mentioned contemporary history, the collapse of 35. What happened in 2035? I hear the heavy door to the archive room rattling, the administrative security guard trying to breach the lock. I have seconds. I pull Liam's textbook, Quantum Mechanics and Chronal Field Theory, from my backpack. It's the key to understanding the mechanism, and perhaps the key to defeating the ID. I open the final chapter, Temporal Anchoring and Paradox Prevention. The diagrams are incomprehensible, but the text beneath one diagram, a crude drawing of the Denton High layout, is clear. The school requires an annual sacrifice of current resources to maintain the illusion of temporal continuity. If the anchor, the ID, is severed or neutralized at a nexus point, the central tower core, the field must dissipate, returning the architecture to its current primary timeline. The central tower core. I remember the blueprints from Section 1. The central tower was supposedly demolished in 1990, but Liam's ID photo clearly showed the tower looming in the background. It exists in 2038. The security man is now rattling the door violently, trying a key card. I realize what they are. They are the administration of 2038, the temporal compliance officers who are maintaining the illusion and trying to retrieve their lost anchor. Liam K. Thorne, or his data node. I look at the ID card one last time. Liam's eyes seem to be pleading. If I destroy the anchor, does Liam K. Thorne cease to exist? Or do I free him from the school's control? I hear the lock grinding. I sprint out of the archive vault, across the storage room, and back towards the shimmering exit boundary. The security officer is in the hallway, now focused entirely on the boundary line, trying to stabilize it. He doesn't see me emerge from the side room. I need to get to the central tower core, which must be geographically in the center of the school, even if architecturally hidden in 2024. That means the courtyard, or the subterranean maintenance bay directly beneath it. I think some lessons were never meant to be taught. I pass through the shimmering curtain, which feels like walking through a wall of intensely cold shower spray. I'm instantly back in 2024 Denton High. The light is dimmer, the air is musty, and the lockers are the faded, familiar blue and gold. The synthesized alarm music stops instantly, replaced by the normal, low-frequency hum of the building. But the sound of running shoes doesn't stop. They are my shoes, pounding down the cold, dusty corridor, but they sound like they're running 14 years too fast. I burst out of the classroom wing and head straight for the central atrium. In 2024, the atrium is an open-air courtyard surrounded by glass walkways, but beneath it is the massive, decommissioned main drainage sump, the exact geographical center of the original 1956 construction. That has to be the tower core's foundation, the temporal nexus point. I slide down the metal fire escape stairs leading from the atrium level into the deepest maintenance access, a level below the boiler room, often submerged and absolutely forbidden. I am moving purely on adrenaline now, the weight of the ID card in my hand feeling like a physical, magnetic pull downwards. The bottom floor is dark, slick with moisture, and smells of rot and stale water. My flashlight beam dances over thick, calcified pipes and ancient and used pumps. This is the bedrock of the school, the area designed to withstand structural shifts and temporal stress. I find the center point. It's a circular depression in the concrete floor, about 10 feet wide, surrounded by heavy, rusted iron struts that plunge deep into the earth. It looks less like a foundation and more like a sacrificial altar. As I approach the center, the air begins to vibrate not just with sound, but with light. The emergency bulbs lining the walls start strobing erratically, shifting from white to a deep, unsettling maroon, then silver, flashing the colors of the future, threatening to pull the entire room into 2038 permanently. I look at the circular depression. In the very middle, resting on a pedestal of chipped concrete, is a strange device. It's brass and copper, about the size of a grapefruit, slowly revolving, emitting a low-frequency thrum, the sound I had dismissed earlier as the HVAC system. This is the chronal field generator. The supernatural element reaches its climax. The atmosphere around me thickens into a visual distortion. I can see the present moment, the dusty pipes, the rust, but overlaying it is a transparent, flickering image of the same space, only clean, tiled, and dominated by a towering, futuristic, glowing crystal structure where the brass device sits. The future tower core. The timelines are fighting for dominance right here. I hear the sudden, overwhelming sound of the future administration. It's no longer just one voice. It's a cascade of digital, synthesized voices booming from the walls, issuing immediate commands. Anchor integrity failing. Redirect student ID 4038 to core insertion point. Stabilize timeline. The air pressure drops, forcing a painful pop in my ears. I feel a physical pull, as if the brass device is trying to suck the ID card out of my grip. I fight the pressure, stepping closer to the device. The card in my hand is now burning cold, almost searing my skin. I know what I have to do. The card is the anchor, the point of temporal connection that allows the school to draw resources and stability from the future, consuming Liam K. Thorne in the process. I hold the card over the revolving brass device. The colors intensify, the strobing red and silver lights reflecting painfully off the polished plastic. I feel the presence of Liam K. Thorne fully manifesting around me, not visually, but emotionally. A wave of profound despair, relief, and gratitude washes over me. I realize I don't need to destroy the card physically. I need to sever its purpose, its connection to the system, by integrating it into the core paradox, overriding the school's control. I slam the ID card down onto the revolving brass device. The moment the card makes contact, there is no explosion, no violent discharge. Instead, the building lets out an impossibly deep, resonant hum, a sound that vibrates through my teeth and bones, a sound of release and retraction. The strobing lights immediately die. The temperature stabilizes instantly. The overlaying vision of the 2038 facility shatters like glass, leaving only the damp, rusted, familiar reality of the 2024 drainage sump. But the ID card isn't destroyed. It is fused to the brass mechanism, half submerged in the revolving metal, shimmering with residual blue energy. I look down, catching sight of the last, most terrifying piece of evidence. On the concrete pedestal, the reflection of the brass device shows not just the ID card, but a single, crumpled piece of paper previously hidden by the card's surface. I lean closer, pulling the paper out carefully. It's a current year attendance record, dated just last week. Under T, there is an entry. Name, Thorne L.K. Grade, 10. Status, absent, permanent withdrawal, May 2024. He was here. Liam K. Thorne, class of 2038, was pulled back in time, enrolled in 2024, and then suddenly withdrawn. A ghost student inserted by the system, likely trying to escape or sever the timeline from within. I think some lessons were never meant to be taught. I stand there, gasping, sweat dripping onto the wet concrete. The final silence is absolute, heavier than the noise. The sound of thousands of lockers, the digital voices, the synthesized music, all gone. I have achieved silence, but at the cost of finding the heart of the paradox. I turn to climb the stairs, weak-kneed, but I stop. I hear a tiny, final sound, faint as a sigh, echoing from the now silent intercom high above in the drainage shaft. It's a single, clear, metallic bell, ringing 3 times. It's the dismissal bell, but it sounds empty, final, ringing only for a ghost student who never graduated. I scramble up the stairs, knowing I must leave the ID card and the Nexus behind, hoping the silence lasts. I am sitting exactly where I started, in the old journalism lab on the 4th floor, maybe 2 hours later. The first, faint gray glow of pre-dawn is just beginning to appear on the horizon, filtering weakly through the grimy windows. The school is quiet now, truly quiet. The kind of deep, absolute silence that only comes after a massive release of energy, physical or temporal. I am exhausted, my clothes damp with basement moisture and grime, smelling faintly of ozone and burning brass. I didn't bring the textbook or the notebook with me. I left everything in locker 4038, which had reverted instantly back to its old, dented, green steel appearance, numbered 178, the moment I left the drainage sump. I didn't look back at the brass device. I couldn't risk seeing the reflection. The older terrified me. The fluorescent light above me is still humming, but it's the steady, normal 2024 hum, the sound of aged infrastructure struggling along, not the frantic, temporal buzzing. I run my hand over the dusty desk where the ID card first rested. The dust is undisturbed, thick, and passive. I listen to the wind, which has picked up slightly, whistling a low, hollow note through the gap in the window frame. It sounds like a breath drawn in, held, and slowly released. The wind catches a loose sheet of paper on the floor, an outdated syllabus, and drags it slowly across the polished tiles of the deserted hallway outside the lab. I look at my hands. They still feel cold, the residual chill of the future plastic embedded deep in my skin. I am back in my time. But the architecture of my mind feels compromised, riddled with tiny, temporal fissures. I keep thinking about the quiet desperation